High above the patchwork quilt of autumn, a tiny warbler named Pip flew with all his might. A sudden, violent gust of wind, a rogue wave in the ocean of air, had ripped him from the V-formation of his family. One moment, he was tucked safely behind his mother's wing. The next, he was tumbling through a chaotic sky, alone. The familiar calls of his flock were swallowed by the howling gale. When the storm finally subsided, the world below was a stranger. Gone were the familiar northern forests. Instead, a sprawling, glittering city stretched to the horizon, a concrete jungle he had never seen before. Panic fluttered in his tiny chest, a frantic drumbeat against his ribs. Where was his family? Where was the sun-drenched south they were flying to? He circled, his calls unanswered, echoing back at him from the glass and steel canyons. Exhaustion began to weigh down his wings. Spotting a small patch of green nestled between towering buildings, he descended, landing shakily on the branch of an oak tree in a city park. This place was noisy, filled with rumbling metal beasts and the strange chatter of humans. It was nothing like the quiet rustle of the forest he called home. His first night was terrifying. The city never slept. Lights blazed, sirens wailed, and strange shadows danced everywhere. He huddled in the leaves, shivering not from the cold, but from fear. Morning brought a new, pressing problem. Hunger. His stomach ached. He didn't recognize the plants here, and the insects he was used to were nowhere to be found. He watched the local sparrows and pigeons peck at crumbs dropped by people, but they were aggressive, territorial, and drove him away with sharp squawks. He was an outsider, an alien in this new land. Days blurred into a struggle for survival. He learned to be quick, to dart in and grab a fallen berry before the bigger birds noticed. He discovered that the warmth from building vents offered some relief from the increasingly chilly nights. He even found a small fountain to drink from, its water tasting of city grime but life-sustaining nonetheless. Yet, with every passing day, a deep loneliness settled over him. He missed the chorus of his family's songs at dawn, the feeling of soaring together, the shared journey. One afternoon, while foraging near a park bench, he saw something that made his heart leap. A woman was sitting with a large book, and on its pages were detailed drawings of birds. She pointed to a picture and spoke softly to the child beside her. Pip edged closer, his curiosity overpowering his fear. He recognized the bird in the drawing. It was a warbler, whoosed like Eem. As if sensing his presence, the woman looked up and her eyes widened slightly. She didn't move or make any sudden noises. She just watched him with a gentle, kind expression. Over the next few days, this became their routine. Pip would appear when the woman was in the park, and she would leave a small offering of seeds and mealworms, a feast compared to the scraps he'd been surviving on. He began to associate her presence with safety and nourishment. He learned the sound of her soft voice and the gentle crinkle of the bag she carried his food in. For the first time since the storm, he didn't feel completely alone. He grew stronger. His feathers, once ruffled and dull, regained their vibrant sheen. His spirit, once crushed by despair, began to lift. He started to sing again. Tentative notes at first, then a full-throated song that echoed through the park. Ease song was one of resilience, a melody woven from hardship and hope. The woman would smile when she heard him, a silent acknowledgement of his returning strength. One crisp morning, a familiar scent drifted on the wind. It was the smell of pine, of damp earth, of the changing seasons, the smell of the south. He looked up and saw them, a V-formation of birds, high in the sky, heading in the right direction. A powerful, instinctual pull surged through him. It was time. He knew what he had to do. He flew to the branch above the woman's usual bench. One last time, when she arrived, he sang his most beautiful song, a melody of gratitude and farewell. He looked at her, and for a moment, he felt she understood. With a final, ringing chirp, he launched himself into the air. He climbed higher and higher, leaving the concrete jungle behind. The city shrank below him, its noise fading into a distant hum. He found a current of air and let it carry him, his wings beating with a newfound power. He was no longer the frightened, lost fledgling from the storm. He was a survivor. The journey was long, but he was not afraid. The memory of the kind woman and the lessons of the city gave him strength. He flew over mountains and rivers, his internal compass now locked on its destination. And then, one sunny afternoon, he heard it. A familiar chorus of calls, the song of his own kind. Below him, in a sun-drenched coastal marsh, was his flock. They had made it. He dove towards them, his own call ringing out. Heads turned, and a joyous chorus erupted. His mother was the first to reach him, nuzzling him with her beak. He was home. He had been lost, but he had found his way. He had faced the unknown and conquered it. As he settled among his family, Pip knew he was forever changed. The little warbler who got lost in the storm now carried the wisdom of two worlds, the wild freedom of the sky and the unexpected kindness he found in the heart of the city. And he knew, no matter what winds came his way, he would always have the strength to fly through them.